I know you've been in big games before, but a Melbourne Derby grand final week, is there something a bit special about this one?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I think there's no better way to end the league. And obviously, being a Melbourne boy, I know what these games mean. And yeah, look, really excited. And like I said, there's no better way to end the season than a Melbourne Derby in a grand final.
As you said, you're a Melbourne boy. You know how much feeling can be in these games. You've brought the feeling to several of these games in the past. Do you feel like this will be the most fiery, pitched battle of a derby that's ever been staged?
Well, I assume so for what's up for grabs. But at the end of the day, a derby's a derby. As much as it's another football game, there's always a bit more on the line. It's a bit more special. So yeah, look, I think it'll be a great contest. Two of the best teams in the league this year going head to head for a piece of silver.
Is this how special is this? You came home to City having started, having been at heart. I imagine this was the game goal. How special is it to have your chance to grab it?
Yeah, definitely. This was the goal at the start of the season. So yeah, look, we set out goals from the start in pre-season where we want to be at the end of the year, and obviously that was fight for the Champions League spot first and foremost, and then as a club and as a team within those four walls was to be here on the final day, and we've managed to do that, and we've got one more hurdle in front of us.
How prepared are your guys to possibly have a big victory crowd here? Usually their numbers are pretty high. How prepared are you guys to probably have some booing and some whistling and some sort of noise from victory fans?
Look, I don't think it's going to be any surprises for a lot of our players. A lot of our boys have experienced overseas football. So yeah, look, I know we're going to have a lot of numbers as well. So I'm expecting the atmosphere to be unbelievable. Obviously in this stadium as well. Perfect football stadium. So yeah, really excited for it.
This is a club that's had a lot of success in recent years. What do you put that down to?
I think the culture at the club, the standards that are set from top to bottom, and the playing group as well. The expectation for playing for Melbourne City is always obviously fighting for trophies and silverware and playing for the top spot. So, we've had that group this year. From day one of pre-season, the boys have worked hard. We've all pushed each other, and yeah, I think that's the main ingredient we've had.
You got a favourite derby memory?
I'd say the first ever derby. We played here. It was a packed out stadium, and we ended up getting the win. So yeah, I think I'll put that one just because it was the first ever derby.
As mentioned, it's a sellout. How big is this, not just for you guys, but for the A-Leagues and football in Australia? Just that shot in the arm.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's massive. I don't think a lot of people expected it to be in Amy Park, but look, we're excited. It's perfect for Australian football. A derby in a grand final you don't rarely get anywhere. So yeah, look, I think it's going to be great atmosphere. Like I said before, two good teams going head to head, and I think it'll be a great game.
You talk about the standards that you've put in place in pre-season. What were some of them that have helped you absorb all the injuries you've had and emerge on the final day of the campaign?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest take we took from last year was being consistent, and that's just not week-to-week basis. That's every day, and I think that's why we didn't get so much success last year. I think the inconsistency, but this playing group from day one of pre-season, and even the young boys, obviously Vidi blooded them in straight from day one, and prepare them really if they're needed, and that's what they showed this year as well, and that's gone for any player that's had to come in. You can speak about German Ferreira, didn't get much game time at the start, but as soon as he's come in, it looks like he's played every game. So I think it's just been about everyone prepared well throughout the year, and I think the biggest plus for us this season was our pre-season to give us that base.
Because the leadership group that you've got there at City, yourself, Lex, Andy DeBoot, Jimmy Jego, you're all veterans, but you're also all Melbourne boys as well. What would that mean for you as a leadership group to bring a championship to the club?
Yeah, like I said, it's always a bit more special when you can win a trophy in your home city. So yeah, look, those boys have been great. Obviously, a lot of experience there. And obviously they've helped run the change room and drive our standards on the pitch.
One season now with the armband, what have you learnt most about this group and their character?
Yeah, look, they've made my job real easy, and obviously the boys we just spoke about, they play their part, so I'm not going to take all the credit, that's for sure. But like I said, this playing group, the way they work every day, even the young boys, you know, we're all in it together at the end of the day, and that's one thing we said day one of pre-season is, you know, if you have a successful season, you know, it's always special. So they've always worked hard, and like I said, they've made my job real easy.
You guys have played some tightly contested matches. What's going to be the key to actually breaking this thing down and getting the win?
Yeah, look, you know, as much as it's another game, it's a finals game. I think it'll come down to moments, but we're just going to focus on ourselves. You know, do what we've done. You know, we want to dominate the game, and that's what we've tried to do every game. And obviously, keep a clean sheet. That's, I think, our defensive record's been great, but that starts from the front, and obviously hit the back of the net. That's the end goal.
You've played in a bunch of big games over the years. You mocked Leo Messi in a World Cup. How do you share that wisdom with some of the players that haven't been on this stage before?
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit difficult. I think you need to experience these type of games to get that feeling. But, you know, this week we've kept it a normal week. You know, even the younger boys, just keeping them relaxed. You know, I'd rather take the pressure on my own shoulders than you know, make them feel anything. But look, they've been great. We're just continuing as a normal week at training, and yeah, look, it's, you know, once you get out on the pitch, it's more so about just blocking out the things you can't control and just focus on playing football.
Last question, Aziz, what's the craziest atmospheres you've played in? Give us some of your best of overseas ridiculousness in these kind of games.
Yeah, I'd say Turkey was probably the most. Obviously, when I was in Bursaspor, the derbies against Besiktas were massive, real hatred there. So you know, I've experienced a lot of that stuff, and obviously with the Socceroos, I'd say Honduras was one that sticks out a lot away. But yeah, look, those are all experiences that I can hopefully share with the boys, and help as much as I can this week.
Well, Eddie, it's a grand final week. Yourself as a coach, what's the most important things for you preparing your side for a game like this?
Just try to stay relaxed. I think, as Iz mentioned earlier, we just try to make it a normal week. We know it's not a normal week, but in terms of the way we're planning, the way we've set up our training week, it's been exactly the same as it's been all year. The only thing is we've just said, look, there's going to be a lot more noise this week. You know, social media is going to be going crazy, and just to embrace it, because you can't run away from it. So we just said, don't hide away from it, just accept it, whatever responsibilities, activities that you have this week, just take it on board. But we try to make sure that most of our senior guys have taken that load in terms of interviews and things like that. So pretty normal for us, but we know it's a big week.
Melbourne derby, like, do you embrace the intensity? Do you have to hold guys like Aziz back? How do you approach it?
Absolutely the same way. Me personally, I still can't believe after 20 years it's the first grand final, first derby in a grand final. So that's a first. And you know what the derby is always like. They're always intense. There's always something happening that can be explosive, as you know. So we just have to try to prepare for anything and everything. And yeah, we prepared so well this year. We're ready. So whatever happens on the night, we'll be ready.
How conscious are you about the moments in games, and particularly victory? You've got guys like Isuzu, like Azani, who can make moves come out of nowhere. You guys have got guys like that too, but how conscious are you of the way the game can change on the boot of some of these guys?
Yeah, look, there's no question they're a very strong outfit, but we're also a very strong outfit, and we deserve to be where we are today. And we deserve to be fighting out on that last day on Saturday night. So, yeah, of course they've got their danger players. We have ours as well. There are always going to be moments in games, and you have to try to manage those moments as best you can.
There's a lot of players, I think, not injured, but were coming back from injury and a whole lot of sorts of victory. Are you planning to be a little bit more physical to give it to them this week?
Well, that's the way we play anyway. So we've been aggressive from the very first day of our competition. We want to be the aggressor. That's the way we play. That's the team's identity, and we'll continue to do that.
Honestly, you guys are on the home side for this fixture, but there'll be a lot of victory fans here that will be making a lot of noise and making themselves heard. How important is it to kind of quiet that crowd down in the early part of the game?
I think it's almost impossible. So, look, I think they'll have a majority share of the crowd, but our fans have been there for us from the very, very first day. They've supported us, and we expect them to be just as loud and support us right to the end.
Obviously, they spoiled the party for Auckland last week. Are you prepared to spoil the party for them here?
Yeah. Look, it's a grand final, and it's a grand final that we deserve to be there. We have the right to fight for it, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
It's been a while since you've actually beaten Victory in a game. You haven't played badly in games against Victory, but you just haven't been able to salute. What lessons can you take from those games and implement on the weekend?
Oh, look, we've adapted and we've learnt from the previous games that we played against them, and I think we've improved certainly from round 3 to the last time we played them. So look, they've changed a little bit as well, obviously with a new coach. Guys like Gary who are not there anymore. So we've had to adapt, and we've had to learn and to grow, and I think we've done that step by step.
Anyone that won't be out there this weekend? I think Sammy, you might have brought up the season already.
Yeah, besides Sammy, as you know, Andy Naboo and Jimmy Jago, Jaden Nikovsky, so those guys have had long-term injuries. Sammy wasn't a long-term, but it became a long-term, so they definitely won't be there.
What would it mean to you personally as a coach to lift that trophy up?
Yeah, I'd be extremely proud, because it's not a yearly event that you can get to a grand final. So, and I know we put in, not just myself, but all the coaching staff, the high performance staff, the admin staff, every single person at the club has put in an incredible shift this season. We all headed in the right direction, the same direction. No one ever wavered. Even we had moments in the middle of the year, I think we lost 3 in a row. We just kept a straight face, and we kept battling away, and we put ourselves in a great position. So everyone deserves it.
So I remember you saying when you got the call to take over, you were doing family barbecue when you got the call to take over.
Yeah.
How do you reflect on like that? Getting a phone call, you're doing the sausages, then you get the call to now being in a
It was
grand
a
final.
ribeye. It was a ribeye
There
steak.
you go, you get a ribeye.
No
Bougie,
sausages.
bougie. How do you reflect on that journey now to a grand final?
I think this is part of life, especially in sporting life. Things can change and turn very, very quickly. You can be in a job one day and you can be out of it the next. So it's all part of the experiences, all part of the lessons, and nothing should really surprise you in football.
Just on Lex, we've seen him building up his minutes over the past few weeks. What sort of role can he play on Saturday? And maybe do you have to consider the possibility of extra time and penalties when you're determining that?
Yeah, they're all the things that we have to juggle with. Obviously, and I've mentioned many times before that he's such a crucial player for us, and we haven't relied on him at all this year. And the moments that he has come on, he's done a great job for us. So again, we've still got a couple more sessions to go and see how we're going to set up, which is going to be the best thing for the team.
You've coached in a grand final before. It didn't go the way you wanted. What's that experience that you take from that, even though it was a while ago, to this now to with the zone?
It was a long time ago. I don't even remember it, to be honest. I remember the opposition though. So, look, again, it's a different game. Finals are completely different. You really can't lean on anything that's happened in the past. You learn from experiences, certainly about, for example, like embracing the week, because sometimes in your first one you try not to get carried away with all the things that are happening. So you sort of just got to be a little bit more relaxed. I think our group has been so relaxed throughout the whole year. There's an incredible amount of trust amongst them, and we as coaching staff have an incredible amount of trust for them and with them, and it puts us in a really good position to go out on Saturday night and put on a strong performance.
Aurelia, can you just tell us a little bit about what you've seen from Aziz in terms of his leadership, in terms of how he's guided?
I see the rain coming in.
Sorry.
Look, I think we made a pretty conscious effort at the end of last year when Jamie McLaren left the club, who was going to be the next captain, who was going to be the next leader. And I certainly felt, and I spoke with Michael Petrillo on many occasions, that probably the only one, we've got a lot of strong leaders, but probably the only one who could do the job that we'd expect right now would be Aziz. And we certainly missed him the last 6 months of last season. And he's been instrumental. He's been so important for us. Sometimes as a coach, it's not easy to control the change room. And he's made my life so much easier because You know, anything that happens, or even prior to things happening, he's already onto it. So he can sense it, he can smell it, and everyone is just following the standards and following rules. And sometimes, you know, we have to be a little bit more open for those sorts of things, and we can allow some things to happen. But the way he's managed that group has been sensational this year.
Roddy, how special is it to be here competing in a second grand final in 2 years?
I think it's pretty special. Taking consideration it's a derby, I think it's even bigger, especially here in Melbourne, for people in Melbourne and Victoria. Everybody's really excited about this game, everybody's really happy. All the journey until this moment was tough, but I think we prove ourselves that we are a well-deserved team to be here. Now we are ready to play the game.
How incredible is it that you've reached this point when so much has happened to this club? There have been injuries, obviously PK left and Dilla came in. How's this group stuck together and got here?
I think you always need this adaptation time. We took that and we lost a lot of points meanwhile. But I think in the end everybody just stick together. The belief and the quality was always there. It was just a matter of time to see how long was adaptation. Luckily we got through that towards the end of the season. We start to show again the team we are. And now, like I said, I think we are a deserved team. We deserve to be here in the grand final, and hopefully now everything goes better than last year.
Speaking with Arthur a couple of days ago, and he talked about when he came into the job, when he first took over as head coach, he called a meeting with the leadership group, you amongst them, and he sat you down and he had a conversation and you rallied around him at that point. Could you just walk us through that meeting and how you tried to rally around him after that point?
The meeting was about like everything will remain the same. Just one person that left, the rest remained the same. The coaching staff remained the same. After add another one or two, the players were the same. The method was the same. Everything was the same. It was just a different idea in the end, game plan. And like I said, adaptation. We need some time to adapt to the new style. He had no time to work with us in the preseason because different ideas, different coaches is normal. But in the end, it was about belief, the process. Even losing points, even some games don't go in our way, we just stick together and believe. Like I said, the quality was always there, the player was always there. It was just a matter of time to have the click, and we are lucky. We are lucky to have in these last few games of the season as well, important moments. So the next Saturday is an important moment again, and hopefully everything will click again to us.
And how are you feeling, mate? You obviously missed the first leg against Auckland. You'll be good for 120 minutes if needed on Saturday?
Let's not jinx it, but for now, feeling pretty confident, feeling good. So hopefully everything goes well as well on my side.
You've been at this club for a really long time. You've experienced a lot with them, but you've never won the ultimate prize with this team. What would it feel like for you to win it?
I think it will be really important, not only for me, not only for the players, but for everybody, for the club, for the fans, the city. Before I arrived, I know a few years the club was not in the best position, ladder-wise, and even stuff happening on the backstage. But luckily, we turned around. We've been now the second time in a row in the grand final, and hopefully, we just need to give the extra step to get hands on the trophy. That will be really important for everybody. Like you guys saw, the tickets were sold out in few hours, so I think that really shows the importance of this game for everybody in the city, and we are here to fight for them and to show that we deserve to have the hand on the trophy.
You talk about last year's grand final. What is the memory of that for you guys? Do you use some of that to help you in this, or do you just not think about last year?
Last year grand final was a learning for maybe the hard times we had through this season. Stick together, no matter what, we always can bounce back and come back. And it's a different game. Was away this time. It's not at home, but it's like home for us. So different opponent, tough opponent. So everything is different. Of course, the learnings we know already. We learn from the mistakes of the past, and now it's up to us to make sure we don't make the same mistakes and we can take the next step forward.
What's Arthur like with the players? What's he like as a man manager as he deals with all your different guys?
To be honest, he didn't change since he was the assistant coach. Always really close to the players, always really helpful to help us, always open door to discuss whatever we need to discuss. And now we had to look to him with another eyes because now he's a head coach. So we need to, not to give a step back, but like understand that now he needs to have his own time to think, to to deliberate, to do the formations, the tactics. But in the end, he remained the same guy, really friendly with everybody, respect everybody. And in the end, if you feel the respect from the coach with every player, I think every player is willing to fight for the coach until the end.
Do you expect to see Nish out there this weekend? It looks like a pretty uphill battle for him.
I think everybody will expect Nish to come, but I think it's a daily process. Hopefully tomorrow he feels better, the day after better, and after I think we'll take from there. But for now, just hope he feels better. That's the most important, feel healthy. And if he's able to play, we are more than happy to have him. If not, I know we'll be one of the extra thousands around help us. So, but fingers crossed for him as well.
Roddy, a lot of the questions we're asking this week is about how players, coaches will manage the pressure of a sold-out crowd. But at the same time, 30,000 people, these are the games that you become a footballer to play in. How much are you going to enjoy and feed upon the excitement that will be in the stands on Saturday?
I think that's a word that is crossing around our changing room, is to enjoy. I think it's not a game that everybody can play, especially a derby. I think a derby is always pretty special to play, and being a grand final, the stadium will be buzzing for sure. So I think it's enjoy the moments. Of course, understand what is on stake, but to be honest, it's enjoy. Like you said, I think whenever you start to play football, it's for these moments to have full stadium. Atmosphere will be amazing for sure. A lot of pressure, a big game. So I think everybody will take enjoy on the game, like Isuzu likes to say, and try to get the reward in the end.
I mean, you came out here to Australia. I can't imagine you knew much about the A-League when you first came out, but now you've turned into the captain of this club. You're about to lead them into a second straight grand final. Since you arrived in Australia, what sort of relationship have you built with Melbourne Victory, and will you take with you through the rest of your life?
It's been like a family relationship. I think since the first day they treat me really well. I have nothing to say against Melbourne Victory, against the fans or against the city. Everything was perfect for me, for my family. My boys, they feel at home here. They say already they are Australians before Portuguese. So I feel at home, and I try to give back every time I'm on the pitch. Try to give back a little bit the love and appreciation they gave towards me and my family. And Saturday is another way to try to show my appreciation and try to fight for the badge.
Last question. What was it like? You've got lots of different game winners on your team, but to see Bruno get a goal on the weekend, he's had up-down season. What was it like to see him, have such a big goal in a big moment?
Really happy for him. Really special player, a player for this kind of games. Always ready to score against tough teams and difficult moments. But it's like we said in the changing room altogether. Everybody's important in some way. Everybody needs to be ready because football is like these moments. Bruno has not been really important player or have so many minutes like last season. But when we need him the most, he was there saying present. He scored the goals for us. All the fans loved him before, and now after this goal, we love him more. And hopefully Saturday can bring us one more to put a smile on the face of everybody.
The man everyone's been talking about, Nish and Luke, will he be able to play, or is it too much?
We're not sure yet. Yeah, it's still early. We'll give him to the 11th hour and we'll make that decision on Friday. But at this stage, it's probably 50-50.
24 hours ago, I asked if you said there was hope he would make some progress. Have you seen him? Is he walking a bit better today? Or?
He's walking better, but yeah, one thing's to walk and one thing's to be up for a final. But in terms of general walking, yeah, he is better. Significant improvement in that regard. But yeah, still way too early to have a clearer indication.
Mitch Langruck, we saw getting involved in some training yesterday. Is he fit to play a role there, whether he starts or on the bench?
Yeah, he did a little bit yesterday. He did a little bit more today. We'll see tomorrow how he pulls up because it'll be first time he's done 2 days back to back. So it'll be a big test for him. And then again, he's one of those ones who put in that bracket of wait and see.
Adama and Casey also looked to be running pretty freely yesterday. Are they fit to play?
Yeah, they're looking good actually. So that's a nice bit of news that they're in a much better position than we anticipated last week. So if it keeps going like this, come Friday, I think they'll be up for selection.
How do you handle it with playing group throughout the week? Because obviously you don't want this to be a distraction, but at the same time, you want to keep hoping those guys who've got injuries. How do you manage it these days leading up?
Yeah, it's just it's part of the game really. The players are aware, they know the situation, so we don't give it too much attention. They're doing their bit behind the scenes and off the park. everyone else is doing their bit on the park, and in the end they're looking out for themselves, making sure they're all fit and up for selection because they all want to play.
Arthur, you're a Sydney sider growing up. What's it like to be coaching Melbourne Victory? Could you ever have dreamed you'd be leading the Melbourne club in a grand final?
Yeah, definitely it's a privilege and an honour, and something I value highly. Fantastic club. It's a massive club in Australian football with a great history. From the inception of the A-League. So, yeah, to be the leader of the club at the moment, it's something that I'm really proud of, and yeah, I take it in my stride and keep working hard to make sure that I can be here as long as possible.
Obviously, the players would have been on a high after the game in Auckland. How do you manage their emotions heading into this, knowing there is another big game around the corner?
Yeah, it's not easy because like everything, it's finals football and there's huge emotion involved. So it's not just the physical toll that it takes on you; it's also the mental and the emotional toll. And that's important that when they have their day off and they come back in the day after, that they've let that go. They've enjoyed that moment. We definitely want them to enjoy that moment and know how beautiful that feels. But then when we come back on the training park, we want them ready to go again because that if you want that feeling again, you've got to prepare again the way you did and be ready for something even more difficult.
I guess one of the downsides of setting into the head coaching role is that it's now on you to look at some boys and tell them you're not playing on Saturday. You get to give some boys their dreams, but others can't. How do you go about approaching that?
Yeah, that comes with the territory. It's never a nice thing to leave a player out of any game, and every week there has to be players that miss out. And that's probably the part of coaching that's not something I enjoy, but in the end, that's part of the job. And along the way, if you're honest with your players, they might not like what they hear or the situation, but they'll always respect and appreciate your honesty. So, I've been very honest and open with my players from day one, and that won't change.
Does that get to that spirit of respect that you talked about trying to foster in the dressing room? You respect them, they respect you. That's what this success is built on? Absolutely.
Respect is a key part of our DNA on how we want to behave every day as human beings, how we want to train every day as athletes, and how we want to be as a team. And when you have that, it obviously, it's never easy and it doesn't make it better, but it gives you the best of a bad situation, I would suppose. So, yeah, respect is vital, and it works both ways, from me to the players and the players to me and my coaching staff.
What was the toughest sort of thing to turn around or to build on when you took over the job and in those early losses? What were the things that you really had to...
The toughest was the first 24 hours, trying to overcome the shock and no sleep. Once I had a good night's sleep, I was fine after that. But yeah, look, I think it's been well documented that maybe the start wasn't great in terms of results, but we were quietly confident because we know we were performing quite well, and in the end, that's what turns things around. When you continue to work hard, you keep working every day, you keep sticking to the process, and when you do that, that shows there's belief, and as long as there's belief, there's always a chance. So, yeah, they've never wavered from that, and that's why, in the end, we are where we are.
Last question. If someone 12 months ago told you you'd be leading out Melbourne Victory to a grand final as a senior coach, would you have believed it?
Probably not. But that's football, and we know whether you're a player or a staff member involved in football, everything can change very quickly. 1 minute you can be down, next minute you can be up, and on the flip side you can be up 1 minute and down the very next, and that's something that you can never take for granted. That's something that you always got. I believe that you always got to be humbled and keep your feet on the ground because it can change very quick. It can change with a result, and that's the nature of the beast of the industry that we're in. It's something that I take in my stride. I'm aware of that. I know the consequences and I also know the joys, and I focus on the joys more than the consequences.
How much family have you got coming in for the go?
Yeah, busload.
It's going to be pumping here. It's expected to be very pro-Victory despite being technically your away grand final. Sellout crowd. How big is this? One for you if you can lead Victory to this championship.
Huge.
Two for Australian football, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Australian football is always at the forefront. Making sure that our game is where it needs to be, and so for the game it's huge. For our club it's massive. Irrespective that we've been there many times before, you never take that for granted. Every grand final that you can play in is massive, and this week will be no different. Being the away team, it'll be a unique feeling as an away team, probably having the majority of the fans in here. We know our fans are fantastic, and I expect on Saturday night this place to be shaking, and we're looking forward to that.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Al. Good luck.
Thank you.